Group leaders. Welcome to week 8 of Revelation, our walk through week 8, 9, and really week 10. We kind of get into the good stuff, if you will. This is what we long for, the book of Revelations, ending the paradise of Jesus, as we have titled it. Uh, this is what heaven is. This is why we fight. This is why we get up in the morning. That's why we get out of bed. This is why we can suffer well. This is why we can look at all the sadness and all the evil. And while we may not have an answer for it, we know that heaven makes sense of it. And so we really want to get into this for the next couple weeks. We're getting really to the granddaddy of them all, which is Revelation 21. Um, and really want our folks to know that heaven is heavenly because Jesus is there. So often when we think about heaven, we think of no pain and no sadness and no guilt, no anxiety, and not paying taxes and not sitting in traffic. And all that is very true. For all that heaven affords us from those things, heaven fulfills our deepest longing. Scripture tells us over and over our deepest longing is to be with Jesus. That he will be our God and that we will be his people. That is the overarching covenant that we find in Scripture. And that's what heaven really delivers to us, that we will have his face and he will have ours, that we will look him in the face and see Jesus for who he is truly. It's the longing of every human heart that Jesus is yours and you are his, and nothing will ever threaten that again. That is John's message to these churches that are suffering. It's John's message to us that the world, the flesh, and the devil cannot touch you. And heaven is the guarantee of that promise. It's the culmination of all our desires. So we really want to get our people talking about their desires, which is going to be hard, which is kind of is strange, right? It's another paradox of the Christian life is that we all have these desires, but we don't know how to make sense of them, and we're a little afraid to trust them. The famous C.S. Lewis quote is, "Our desires are not too great, but too small." And so, how do we get the folks in our groups thinking about the great desire that they have for heaven? So, we're going to ask what they find fascinating about heaven. What captures your imagination when you think about heaven? We're going to see that John really notes specific items that he doesn't see in heaven. He doesn't see a temple. He says there's no sea. He says twice that there's no light. Uh, and so, in contrast with everything that he does observe, what might be the significance of pointing out the things that are not there? So, we want to talk about that. How does this description of heaven line up with what you've imagined? If you've seen heaven portrayed on media and TV, movies, it can seem kind of boring. Babies floating around on clouds with arrows and things like that. We really want to get out of that mindset and really get folks to see that what heaven is a renewed and redeemed earth. What we're going to be doing in heaven is kind of what we do now, without all the weight and the sin that carries us down. And so, how does this description of heaven that we see from John line up with what we've imagined about heaven kind of in the past? And so we want to think a lot about that. And then moving on down to the heart portion, what does our heart long for when we think of heaven? Maybe it is the freedom from sin. Maybe it is the freedom from pain and guilt and sadness. Maybe it is being with Jesus. We don't know where our people are in answering this question, but we definitely want to give them the space to talk about that. And in what ways is it difficult to find that your longings will actually be fulfilled? Do you believe that? Do you trust that? What might keep you from believing that? We know that our hearts are full of disappointments. People have let us down time and time again. And so, are we bringing that into how we think about heaven? Those are all things that we would want to talk about. And then, how does seeing the face of Jesus satisfy those longings? How does knowing that Jesus really is with us and for us satisfy those desires in our heart? And then, twice, John says there will be no night there. Have we thought about what it's like to be away from the chaos of the world? To really be free of darkness. That's an experience that we've never had, and it might be hard to imagine what that's like. So again, we want to operate in a venue of giving space to discuss those things. And then what really wanted to close with, in what ways can you allow yourself to truly long for Jesus? Not just lip service, not just in singing a song or whatever that might be, but are you afraid to really let yourself do that? I know I am, um, and I don't know why. It sounds incredible, and yet I just can't connect with that. So you might find that that's going to be a thing for your folks. How do we lead them in that? But again, you're going to find this discussion to be a lot lighter than the previous weeks leading up to it. So that's going to be a good thing. It'll allow us to come up to breathe a little bit from taking such a deep dive. So we want to look and ask um, and wonder together at all that Jesus has for us. So again, as I say each week, let your campus pastor know if you have any questions. Let your discipleship director know. Feel free to email me, Daryl@midtownfellowship.org. Happy to answer any questions you might have. We'll also provide some things in the show notes that will let you look at this a little further. So thanks again.